Hello everyone, welcome to class 4. I am your science teacher and today we will do a short revision of lesson 4, solve exercise of lesson 4. Before starting lecture, let me tell you learning objectives of today's lecture. These lessons will help you to learn about matter, to study different state of matter and to know how one state changes into another state. Do you remember what is matter? Matter is made up of very tiny particles and these particles are so small that we cannot see them with naked eyes. It has been observed that matter exists in nature in different forms. Some substances are rigid and have a fixed shape like wood and stone. Some substances can flow and take the shape of their container like water, while there are forms of matter that do not have fixed shape or size such as air. Thus, the matter can be classified into 3 different categories based on the physical properties. In solids, particles are tightly or closely packed. The gaps between the particles are tiny and hence it is tough to compress them. Solid has a fixed shape and volume. Solids are substances in which the particles are packed very close to each other. Solids are usually hard and have a fixed shape. Pencil, book, chair and marbles are examples of solids. If we apply force, some solids can change their shape. For example, dough can be rolled onto chapatis and interesting shapes can be made out of clay. Some solids on applying force can be bent or broken. Some characteristics of solids are: solids have fixed shape, solids have fixed volume, molecules in a solids are very tightly packed, we cannot compress it. Solids are heavy, solids do not flow. In liquids, state of matter means particles are less tightly packed as compared to solids. Liquids take the shape of the container in which they are kept. Liquids are difficult to compress as particles have less space between them to move. Liquids have fixed volume but not fixed shape. Example of liquid state of matter are water, milk, blood and coffee. Liquids are substances in which the particles are not very closely packed. Unlike solids, they have no fixed shape and can flow. They take the shape of the container they are poured into. Water, milk and juice are example of liquid. If we pour some orange juice into a glass, it will take the shape of the glass. If we pour it into a bowl, it will take the shape of the bowl. Liquids can flow from one place to another and so are also called fluids. There are few characteristics of liquid. Liquid has no fixed shape as it takes the shape of its container. It has fixed volume. Molecules are loosely packed. It can be compressed. Liquid is lighter than solid. Liquid flows and hence is called fluid. Gases are substances in which the particles are very loosely packed. They too have no fixed shape. Unlike liquids, they occupy all the available space in the container. Air and cooking gas are examples of gases. Air is actually a mixture of gases such as oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. In gases, particles are far apart from each other. Force of attraction between the particles is negligible and they can move freely. Gases have neither a fixed volume nor a fixed shape. The gaseous state has the highest compressibility as compared to solids and liquids. The rate is higher than solid and liquids. There are few characteristics of gases. They have neither fixed shape nor volume. They are easily compressible. Molecules are far apart. Matter can change its form from one state to another, which is called change of states. For example, on heating, a solid becomes a liquid. On further heating, a liquid becomes a gas. For example, ice on heating becomes water. On further heating, water changes into a gas called water vapor. The process by which a solid changes into a liquid is called melting. Let's start with ice cubes. Let's take some ice cube and heat it in a beaker. What you notice after a while is that the ice cube are dissolving in its own liquid. This is what is meant by melting. As we keep heating, the ice cubes gradually become smaller and smaller and turn into water. This change of state is referred to as melting, and it is a change of state from solid to liquid. The process by which a liquid changes into a gas is called vaporization. Vaporization can happen by evaporation and boiling. Boiling process of change of liquid into a vapor at particular temperature and pressure from all parts of the liquid. Boiling is a bulk process and takes place throughout the liquid. When we supply heat energy to liquid, the particles start moving faster. At a certain temperature, a point is reached when the particles have enough energy to break free from the forces of attraction of each other. At this temperature, the liquid starts changing into a gas vapor. The temperature at which a liquid starts boiling at the atmospheric pressure is known as its boiling point. Pure liquids have fixed boiling point. It can be considered as the criteria of purity. The constant temperature at which a liquid changes to vapor under normal atmospheric pressure is called the boiling point of the liquid. Condensation is the process by which water vapor in the air is changed into liquid water. In other words, the water in the air, a gas known as water vapor. You can also think of condensation in terms of being the opposite of evaporation or the process of liquid turning into a gas. This happens when a pot of water is boiled on the stove. The steam, another form of water vapor, and bubbles you see in the boiling pot of water are evidence of the liquid being changed into gas. The process of change of matter from a liquid state to a solid state is called freezing or solidification. The constant temperature at which a liquid changes into solid by giving out heat energy or cooling is called the freezing point of the liquid. Freezing of water into ice is a form of solidification. If you fill water in an ice tray and keep it in the freezer, you will see that after some time the water turns into ice. A solution is formed when two or more substances mix together such that they are evenly distributed. The substance that dissolves is called the solute. The substance in which the solute dissolves is called solvent. The substance in which the solute dissolves is called solvent. A solute and solvent together form a solution. If we add salt to water, the water turns salty. In the same way, we can add sugar to warm milk and observe what happens. You will see that in both the cases, the salt and the sugar mix with the liquid and dissolve in it. Salt and sugar are the solute, water and milk are the solvent, and the salty water and sweet milk are solution. Solute and solvent are the part of the solution, where the dissolved matter in any solution or mixture is called as the solute, while the liquid or gas that dissolved another liquid, solid or gas is called the solvent. A solution can be defined as the mixture of two or more substances. So in a solution, the substance which gets dissolved is solute, whereas solvent is the substance in which the solute will dissolve. There are many products in day-to-day life prepared by the mixture of one or many solutes and solvent, which forms a solution. These products are medicine, soap, tea, coffee, lime juice, etc. Now let's revise separation of substances. To separate means to remove. Do you know why do we wash our hairs? Yes, we wash it to remove all the dirt and oil. That means we are separating the dirt and oil from our hairs. Separation of substances is very useful in science as well as in our daily life. There are two kinds of substances, soluble and insoluble. Soluble substances are those substances that dissolve completely in a solvent to form a solution. For example, salt and sugar are soluble in water. Insoluble substances are those substances that do not dissolve completely in a solvent. For example, sand and chalk are insoluble in water. There are many ways in which we can separate substances from a solution. Soluble substances can be separated by heating the solution. For example, salt can be separated from the salt solution by heating the salt solution. Water evaporates on heating and the salt particles are left behind. In filtration, a solution containing insoluble substance is passed through a filter paper. On doing so, the liquid passes through the filter paper, while the insoluble substances gets retained on the filter paper. For example, sand and water can be separated by filtration. Now this is another method for separation of substances. During sedimentation, the liquid is left undisturbed for some time. The heavy insoluble solids settle down at the bottom. This process in which insoluble substances settle down is called sedimentation. Then the upper clear liquid is poured into another container without disturbing the insoluble solids. This process is called decantation. Now let's solve exercise of lesson 4. Question 1. Choose the correct option. First MCQ. The particles are packed very close to each other in options are solids, liquids, gases and fluids. The answer is solids because solids are substances in which the particles are packed very close to each other. In solid, particles are tightly or closely packed. The gaps between the particles are tiny and hence it is tough to compress them. Now let's see second MCQ. Which one of these take the shape of the container they are poured into? Option A, chair. Option B, milk. Option C, paper. And option D, pencil. The answer is milk. Because things like water, milk, juices can take the shape of the container they are poured into. Because liquids are substances in which the particles are not very closely packed. Unlike solid, they don't have fixed shape and can flow. Now let's see third MCQ. Which one of these occupies all the available space in a container? Options are A, paper, B, book, C, air and D, pencil. Unlike liquids, gases like air occupy all the available space in the container. Here option A, B and D are example of solids. But option C, air, is example of gas. Because gases are substances in which the particles are very loosely packed and they too have no fixed shape. And unlike liquids, they also occupy all the available space in a container. Now let's see fourth MCQ. The process by which a gas changes into a liquid by cooling is called option A, evaporation, option B, condensation, option C, melting and option D, solidification. The answer is option B, condensation, because condensation is the process by which the water vapor in the air is changed into liquid water. In other words, the water in the air, a gas known as water vapor, from your hot shower cooled when it met the surface of the cold mirror. This caused the water vapor to condense or turn it into liquid form. You can also think of condensation in terms of being the opposite of evaporation. Means the condensation is the opposite of evaporation. Now let's see fifth MCQ. The substance that dissolve is called option A solute, option B solvent and option C solution. The answer is option A solute. Because the substance that dissolve is called solute, where the option B is solvent, but solvent means the substance in which the solute dissolve is called solvent, and option C is solution, which means it is formed when two or more substances mix together, means that is mixture of solute and solvent. Now let's see sixth MCQ. Tea leaves are separated from tea by option A evaporation, option B filtration, option C condensation and option D solidification. In filtration, a solution containing insoluble substances is passed through a filter paper. On doing so, the liquid passes through the filter paper while the insoluble substances get retained on the filter paper. So the answer is filtration, because an example of filtration used at home is the separation of tea leaves from tea using strainer. Now let's revise MCQ. The particles are packed very close to each other in, the answer is solids, because solids are substances in which the particles are packed very close to each other. In solid, particles are tightly or closely packed. The gaps between the particles are tiny. Second MCQ, which one of these take the shape of the container they are poured into? The answer is milk, because things like water, milk and juice can take the shape of the container they are poured into, because option A, C and D are example of solids. Which one of these occupies all the available space in container? The answer is air, because unlike liquid, gases like air can also occupy all the available space in container. The process by which a gas changes into a liquid by cooling is called, the answer is condensation, because condensation is the process by which water vapor in the air is changed into liquid form. The substance that dissolves is called, the answer is solute, because the substance in which the solute dissolve is called solvent, and solute and solvent together form solution. Means the substance that dissolve is called solute. Tea leaves are separated from tea by, the answer is filtration, because in the separation of tea leaves from tea we use strainer, which is example of filtration. Now let's understand fill in the blanks. First, solid, liquid and dash are the three states of matter. The answer is gas, in which solids are substances in which the particles are packed very close to each other. In liquids, particles are not very closely packed, and in gas particles are loosely packed. Now let's understand second fill in the blanks. All matter is made up of small dash droplets or particles. The answer is particles. Now let's understand third fill in the blank. Dash have no fixed shape. The answer is gases, because gases are substances in which the particles are very loosely packed. They too have no fixed shape. Unlike liquids, they occupy all the available space in container. Air and cooking gas are example of gases. Now let's understand fourth fill in the blank. The substance in which a solute dissolved is called the dash. Options are solution and solvent. The answer is solvent, because a solution is formed when two or more substances mix together such that they are evenly distributed, and the substance in which the solute dissolved is called solvent. Now let's understand fifth fill in the blank. Insoluble substances can be separated from a solution by the process of dash. Options are evaporation and filtration. The answer is filtration. In filtration, a solution containing insoluble substances is passed through a filter paper. On doing so, the liquid passes through the filter paper, while the insoluble substance gets retained on the filter paper. So, today we have revised the topics like states of matter. All matter is made up of small particles, and these particles are arranged in different ways in solid, liquid and gas, which are three states of matter. Solids are substances in which the particles are packed very close to each other. In liquid, particles are not very closely packed, and in gases, particles are very loosely packed. The second topic, change of state, means matter can change its form from one state to another, like in melting, through vaporization, condensation, solidification. Then the third topic, separation of substances. There are many ways in which we can separate substances from a solution. For example, salt can be separated from the salt solution by heating the salt solution. Insoluble substances can be separated from a solution by the process of filtration and sedimentation and decantation. In filtration, a solution containing insoluble substances is passed through a filter paper. On doing so, the liquid passes through the filter paper, while the insoluble substance gets retained on the filter paper. For example, sand and water can be separated by filtration. An example of filtration used at home is the separation of tea leaves from tea using strainer. Then last method was sedimentation and decantation. During sedimentation, the liquid is left undisturbed for some time. The heavy insoluble solids settle down at the bottom. This process in which insoluble substances settle down is called sedimentation. Then the upper clear liquid is poured into another container without disturbing the insoluble substance. This process is called decantation. Mud and water can be separated by sedimentation and decantation. Then, today we have solved MCQ and fill in the blanks from the exercise of this lesson.